Today I'm sitting down with someone who's not only one of the most influential figures in Australian real estate, but one of the co-founders behind the Bresic Whitney story, Ivan Bresic. Over the past 2 decades, Ivan's journey has shaped not just the business, but many of the biggest names in Australian real estate today. His impact runs deep through the culture he helped build, the top performers he's mentored, and the standard that he set. What people sometimes forget is that Ivan was selling approximately 100 or perhaps just over 100 properties a year 20 years ago, in a time where there was no real CRMs, no social media, and no digital shortcuts. By today's standards, that level of performance would be the equivalent of selling close to or perhaps over 200 properties a year. He just wasn't ahead of the curve. He helped define it. He's not only been my coach for years, but he's one of my closest friends. What I love most about Ive is that his journey hasn't been linear. He's taken big risks, made bold moves, first relocating to Los Angeles and then to Austin, Texas. Each move representing a completely different season of his life. And at every stage, he's had the courage to reimagine who he is and what really matters. Ivan Bresic, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Age. And, mate, that's very kind of you, very kind words, but I see us as good friends, so appreciate the words and always good to see you.
You're welcome. Yeah, okay, let's start with this.
Firstly, I must say, well done on the Oddi Poddi.
Thank you, mate.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I listen eagerly. I'm one of your biggest fans. I think you're a great interviewer. Shows a lot of humility. I've watched all your interviews, and keep going, mate. I love it.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
I know. I appreciate your support.
Mate, I watched Tommy and Richie and, obviously Andy and all the others, and I've really enjoyed it. So
that means a lot. Thank you. All right, I want to start here.
Please.
If someone hadn't seen or spoken to you in 10 years, what change in you would surprise them the most?
One, that I'm a father. 2, that I'm no longer a real estate agent and no longer at Bresic Whitney. And probably 3, my health. They would say that I look healthier.
And what's one thing that people still, based on that, would still get completely wrong about you?
If they did, they could think that I have still that real estate bravado from many years ago. But I've learnt to slow down. I heard this thing about, Abraham Lincoln said something like, he said, I don't like that man, I must get to know him. And so, if you think about that, people make assumptions or presumptions of people, but when we get to know them, it's not really who we think they are. And in fact, everyone's got their own battles, everyone's got their own things going on. So I think I've learned as I've gotten older to realise that everyone's got an interesting story, and I can empathise with that, and I'm really curious about where people are at. So I don't know if I've answered the question, and I've probably gone off on a tangent.
Well, what do you mean by real estate bravado?
Because if you think about it, Age, I've pretty much lived 3 lives. 0 to 18, so, childhood, teenage years, high school, 1 life. Second life, McGrath Partners, Bresic Whitney from the age of 18 to 40. And then departure, the last 7 years, America, real estate coaching, fatherhood. So I think most of my professional life, people know me as Ivan, the real estate agent who, Bresic Whitney, catch and kill, executor, and whatever. I think that's what they think. But for those I've worked with and got to know over the last 6 or 7 years really well, I think they would probably see that there's more to it than that, mate.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Can I share something that I thought was really interesting? When you think of a lot of the best agents or top agents in the country, and I don't think I'm out of line saying this, when you think of Alex Phillips, when you think of Will Phillips, when perhaps Gavin Rubenstein, Andrew Liddell, when I think of all these huge names, Maclay Longhurst, I would say at some point, because you were ahead of them, perhaps you were some sort of inspiration for them. Is that fair to say?
Oh, mate, I don't know about that. I mean, that's very nice of you to say. Mate, they're all my mates. Like, I got along really well with Gav when he was young, and he would, he had a great, and we still do, by the way, but he had a great energy and he was really curious, and I loved having him around. Maclay was, me and Maclay have been friends for more than 20 years, nearly 20 years. So Phillips and I were at McGrath Partners. Alex, Will and I, as you know, work together. So I think, mate, we're just lucky that, I think about this all the time. All the top agents, you're one of them, you and Andy Maclay. Now I'll put Ballsy, James Ball and Nick Wise in that conversation. I think we're just lucky that, they say that, and I don't want to be too critical, they say that, average people talk about people. They say that middle people, if you like, are focused on themselves and their gospel, or something like that. But they said the top people collaborate. The top people collaborate. Now, if you think about that and all the names you just mentioned, would you say that we're all friends?
We are, but you're the common thread. You're the one common thread between all the, and you're right, James Ball, Nick Wise, you can those names as well. Like these are the best of the best in the country. Yeah. You are the common thread.
I appreciate that. Shannon was also very instrumental in all that. He wasn't as close as us, obviously, but similar era. I don't know what to say to that. Thank you.
Well,
but they're all good guys, and when you've been friends for, it's almost like, mate, we respect each other as well. It's a game. What's made us all successful is it's a game. It's a game of real estate. And, fortunately, we're all similarly aged. Like all the names you mentioned, if you go down to Nick Wise and James, who are 34, up to me of that group, who's the oldest, 47, that era of agents, we've all worked in the East. We've all respected each other. We play the game. We've collaborated. We've holidayed together. And I reckon, mate, when it's all, at the end of the day, it's great, we've all made money and stuff, but I reckon the friendships we've created, those conversations we've had, we've been in Europe together, and mate, I think it's really special. I agree. I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very grateful for those friendships, and I can ring any of those boys at any time, and they all know they can ring me at any time, and there's a good respect there. Fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, question for you as well. And then I'm going to dig into your career and things like that. Sure. So when just as another sort of general question, when was the last time you completely felt out of your depth? And what did you learn from that?
I would say that it would have to be when you start to coach the very best. So when you go from friendships or competitors, which we were sometimes, to then getting calls or sessions, or I offer deep dives. When you start, and this was a year ago or so, when you start now having been called upon by some of the other industry's best, you start to go, can I give them what they want? Marcus Chiminello rang me 18 months ago, best agent in Victoria for the last, several years. And, mate, he was interested in a 2-hour deep dive. And, mate, I was so excited because I've always been fond of Marcus. And I was like, wow. So you go from, helping you guys. I've done some work with Gav. It's different for you guys at Bresic Winnie because we've always had that relationship. But then to then get a call from Marcus and then Phillips and Gav a few years ago and say they want the help. And I put all those guys at the very top. Was I out of my depth? No, because I don't think there's anyone as qualified. But at the same time, it's I've got a lot of respect for those guys. So the fact that they're willing to pay me and invest in that to see if I can help them, that's what it says.
So how did it feel when they asked you for help? Did you question yourself?
No, because I think like anything, you want to get reassurance and reinforcement after the meeting or after the session or at some point that they actually go, Ivan, that was great. Ivan, I took a couple things away from that. But I learned through a coaching, I went to a coaching thing, 3-day coaching thing, and they said, as a coach, there was like a lamppost, a lamppost theory that sometimes you just have to listen to people. to really hear what's going on in their world. So when I heard that, I was like, I could probably work with anyone at any level around the world in any field, because it's not necessarily what you tell them to do or what you coach them. Sometimes it's just listening to what's going on in their world. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Have you had to teach yourself as a coach to listen better? I don't think you were a good listener a long time ago when I met you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to take it personally. I love you, man.
It's probably right.
But now you're one of the best listeners, and you rarely interrupt people. I don't know if you know this, but it was I found it hard to get your attention. I just want to go back to say 2013.
Yeah.
I couldn't get your attention. You'd be talking, you'd be doing something else. I'm on the phone to you, but I knew you were doing something else, and it was pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
And now when I do call you or when we speak, I know that I've got you 100%, and you rarely interrupt.
Right.
So did you learn to do that as a coach?
Yeah, I think you do. You do, because one, you have to be more present. So you learn to be more present. You know, it's an industry that it's a vocation that I take very seriously. Most of it's online. In fact, 95% of it's online. So, you know, we've got 40 minutes together, we've got an hour together, or we've got 20 minutes together, whoever may be on the other side. So I think that's really important. But you do need to have your life sorted out. So if my life wasn't sorted out and I had a lot of noise going on, and it's a noisy world out there, so you've got the external noise of the world with everything, the world events. You've got the internal noise that's going on in all the side of our monkey brains. So everyone's brains on overdrive. So you do have to learn to block that all out and focus on the client. And, you know, just like a vendor or the next buyer, everyone's uniquely different. So it does require, you know, to be attentive. It does require, you know, I've meditated for the last 13 or 14 years. You're saying, Ivan, when I met you 15 years ago, you know, you had a short attention span. Sure, I was a typical real estate agent, and I can certainly attune to that. But you realise that that's not great leadership. You need to slow down. Things like meditation help. I mean, I haven't drunk for 4 years. Alcohol, I think things like that help.
How much do you credit meditation to your... Because there is no question that you've changed so much as a person.
Thank you.
Do you think...
For the better?
Definitely for the better, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Just want to check.
Yeah. Meditation.
Yeah.
Was that... I think you have credited that as the key. I saw someone... I've told you this, and I'm just saying this as a joke, but someone hadn't seen you in a long time, and they said, I saw Ivan... I wonder what medication he's on. Something like that, because you're so much calmer. And I felt like, I think his medication is meditation, is slowing down, is exercise, is being present, is perhaps a reevaluation of priorities.
Yeah.
And I found that fascinating that somebody said that to me, but because I know you so well, I was like, I know what his medication is, and I wish everyone took that medication, because I think everybody would be better.
Well, thank you. I think listening is a really important skill for whatever we do. And so if you think about it from an agent's point of view, the best agents are actually the best listeners and the best qualifiers. And I think what you realise, like I've had social interactions with people and I can see that they're just not present. Their mind's everywhere. A lot of people. That's why they call it the monkey brain. And we've all got that. So being able to slow that down through good rest, through, you know, prioritising things, through getting away from the phone, because that can be a distraction, our devices, breathing, you know, I love breath work. You know, I've done yoga for the last 3 years, and that, you know, that sort of allows you to be more. So there's so many things that you can do to slow down and be present. And I literally would talk about that. I'd coach people. I think it's a great skill to have. So I really appreciate that you've noticed that. It's something that you have to work on. I think it's a sign of respect too.
Agreed. It feels nice, you know, to be the recipient of that, to have somebody actually listening to you. It actually feels nice.
Great.
You're doing it now.
Good.
Okay. Okay. If you had to start your career again, from scratch, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
As an agent?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm a young agent and I want to be successful,
correct.
Is that the question?
You travelled your 20 years.
Yes.
What would you do differently if you were Ivan starting again now, but with the knowledge not with the experience, or perhaps with the knowledge and experience, but you started again.
Well, I'll summarise it. I mean, I did a lot of things that I would do again, but I'll summarise it.
Sure.
I think you have to get, if you're a 20-year-old or whatever age and you get into real estate and you want to be successful, one, you have to take a long-term view. You know, you have to take a 5-10 year view. It takes, it takes elite agents several years to blow up, minimum. So I would take a long-term view. I would also not focus on money. See, like, anyone that I've seen focus on money doesn't make money.
What do you mean by that?
If people get into real estate because they want to make money, they never do. Whereas if all those names that you just mentioned, the guys that I'm friends with in the same circle that we've grown up with, who are some of who are the biggest names in the country, mate, they've got in and just worked their ass off because they love real estate. And then the money's been a byproduct of that. So, I really appreciate that you do things like this podcast, because I asked you why you're doing it. And you go, mate, I just enjoy doing it. I don't really have a end sort of plan. I just enjoy doing it. I know you make a lot more money doing real estate, but this is something you're very passionate about. I love that. So I think, in some ways, real estate agents are like great artists. They paint, they get nothing for their paintings, and they love painting. They get so good at painting, they become really well-paid artists. They become really well-paid real estate agents. Getting back to the question, 5-10 year plan, I'd work in the right environment where you're getting mentoring, coaching, good culture. I think that, or you're working for a good leader. I think that's really important. There's so much information out there to improve online, through social media, through YouTube. So like, you'd be a sponge to learn as much as you can. Definitely have goals, whether you're a 20-year-old or first 6 months in real estate, have some form of goals. The thing that made us successful was you'd serve buyers. So a lot of people get taught you've got to go look for listings. Well, no. I'd say if I started again, I'd do exactly what I did, which is just serve buyers and create a database. So I think the database is enormously important age, and you can start that from day one through serving people, and you build a database and you nurture that, and within 5 years and 10 years, you've got this beautiful, big, robust database that then shoots out listing opportunities. I'd stay focused. I'd take breaks. I would have mentors. I'd put on a coach as soon as I could. It could fit into the budget, and I'd just grind. Like that's all you can do. Like, show me someone. You mentioned all the names at the start of the session. Name me someone who hasn't done all that and had to grind for this long before it started to drop. So I do all those things, mate.
What drove you in the early days? And what drives you now?
Yeah, I came from a great environment. I came from an early McGrath partners. Expectations in the bar was very high because John was our leader. That was the first thing. So, excellence was always, from the age of 18, like, mate, that was just expected. And I was around the best agents in the country from a young age. My father had a bad accident when I was 18. I think that, everyone's got a why. That kind of grew me up very quickly. I was very average at a lot of sport and school and things like that. So when I actually got in real estate, a lot like us, a lot like the guys you said, all of a sudden I was good at something. All of a sudden I was actually good at something because I was average at football and basketball and school and things like that. Even socially I was a bit awkward, still am. But so I was average at all those things, but I was good at real estate. And I just enjoyed serving people. And I was like, I had friends who were smoking dope. I had friends at college. I had friends who were going on, 6-month, 12-month backpacking things. But, mate, I loved going to work in Paddington and showing rental properties. And $500 a week became $800 a week, became $1,000 a week. And by the time I was 19 and a half or 20, I could buy that suit or eat at a nice restaurant. And so it kind of just, then I met Shannon, and we had all these great agents around, and that started to give me confidence. And I was, coming from an insecure, blue collar, middle class background, mate, it was awesome. Like, here's an industry where we're really good at this, and I don't have to work in a cafe or pour beers at a pub or go and get my hands dirty as an apprentice carpenter. Mate, I'll get to wear a suit. I'm in these beautiful homes in Paddington around good people. It was effortless. A lot of work. But it was effortless to go, enjoyable. The culture was great. So what was the driver? I think it's all those things. And then you just get better and better. I met Shannon at a young age. We worked together. We crushed it in 1999. and we were young, and then off we go into, I become a standalone agent, doubted myself for 6 months because I was on my own, but you get through that rocky period, and then all of a sudden you do 25 sales in your first year, you put on a part-time PA, 50 sales next year, she goes full-time, part-time associate, 100 deals in 2002, third year, I had a full-time associate and PA, and I'm 22 years old driving a BMW, living in a one-bedroom in Bondi Junction that I bought. And at that time, I'm like, I can do really well here.
When you say you were average at things like basketball, why do you think you were good at real estate?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I think it's like everyone can do well in this industry, and everyone's got a potential, but kind of everyone's also got a ceiling, or like they can get to a certain level. And I think, mate, it was one of those things that I just understood, like, not immediately, like it took work, but once I understood, leasing really helped. Because once I got through 12 months, 18 months of leasing properties, and like when tenants would miss out on properties and we had something else coming up, then I could just move those tenants who missed out into that one. So I got really good at connecting dots between tenants. So then when Shannon offered me a role as an associate, it was the same thing, but I went from reserve grade to first grade because now I'm in selling. And he said, don't worry about listings. I got that. I want you to service buyers. And I think in the first 6 months I did 8, 10 buyer deals, like similar to like a Zach who works with Andrew. Like I just understood the buyer connecting thing. And so that's what made me successful. Like that, being able to do that was I wasn't good at listing, but I was good at a buyer saying, I've got 300 grand, I want to buy a one bedroom in Elizabeth Bay, strata title. And I'd go, okay. And then I'd get to work and I'd try to find them a one bedroom in Elizabeth Bay for 300 grand. And then I would do it. And then, you'd go, far out, that was good. I get paid a little bit, like 5% of the commission from Shannon. And she was over the moon. I still remember my first sale. And I was like, yes, that was my first sale. And then all of a sudden, 6, 8, 10 deals. And you go, actually, I'm pretty good at doing it. Listing was a big jump because buyer servicing was one thing. But then I started going to listing appointments. I still remember that being, another thing that we had to learn. But the more buyer work I did, the easier the listings got. And that's why I coached that. That's why Bresic Whitney did so well. Mate, what did we do? We just focused on buyers. What did you do when you started Balmain Bresic Whitney? You had no listings, you focused on buyers. Now you guys you've been the market leaders in that market for the last several years. It works.
When you think about Bresic Whitney now,
Yeah.
on the topic of Bresic Whitney,
Yeah.
when you look at the company from the outside, what part of your DNA do you still see in the company?
I think I don't want to take any credit. It's not my style. What Shannon and I did, it's proven to me just as time's gone on that what we did is not that easy to do. If you look at all the other brands out there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, tell me another brand. And I'm not saying that with ego, but like, I think people understand. Like what we did was ahead of the curve. McGrath Partners, or McGrath, was the company that we all knew was, the company. We branch out. We started Young Bresic Whitney in 2003. And a lot of the things, I mean, for the first 5 years, we were just good at execution. We had a pretty average office, small team, but we just worked at execution and servicing buyers, knowing how we do deals. As soon as we started to get some traction and some market share, now we had some working capital. Now we'd go for the bigger office. Now we'd go for more people, better quality people. Then that builds, and then we go, let's get better marketing. Property management builds. So I think, getting back to your question, what part of it? I think it's the execution. Like I had a session with Charles Toomer this morning. He was one of our early agents, legend, terrific salesperson, good guy. Charles was in there in the early days, and, we had a great several years together before he moved on and started his own business. So I think, and Charles today is still one of the best teleprospectors I've ever worked with. So when you say what part of it is still us, I think early parts execution. Shannon, no doubt, was the visionary. He was a great leader for many years. But I think we were we were a good match. Mate, I was black, he was white. He was from the country, I was from the city. He was very Australian, I had ethnic parents. I liked to travel to Europe, he liked to stay in Australia. We were so different, mate. He liked art, I loved sport. You know, I was probably more hard-lined, he was more gentle. You know, so we just had a good synergy. And I've got to say, for anyone listening, like, who you decide to partner with, who do you decide to go in business with, who you decide to work for, has a huge impact on your career and your trajectory, if you think about it. So, you know, kudos to him. I was lucky. We had a great, you know, 3 or 4 years together at McGrath. We had an awesome 17, 18 years together at Bresic, Whitney, but I would never take more credit than him. And, you know, we had a good thing, mate.
I feel like I've always...
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I just think I haven't met many Shannons and I haven't met many Ivans. And then when the two of them come together and work together, and, you know, there's this sort of aura or power about you guys can share that and harness that. You just individually, you're both... I've always said that, like, when you walk into a room, you can feel you walk into a room. I mean, you can't really say that about many people. And then Shannon's just so captivating and so interesting. And, you know, I found that even after the podcast I did with Shannon, I had a few people reach out and I'm sure Will wouldn't mind me saying this, but, like, Will listened to that interview and I think you listened to it as well. And you said, geez, like, that's the Shannon that we had exposure to every single day. Yeah. And you sort of forget because you don't meet many people like that. Yeah. So for me, and the reason why I joined you was because I looked up to you and Shannon. And that was just, you guys inspired me.
Thanks,
still
man.
do. So yeah, and that's why I joined.
We were lucky to have met. We're lucky to be good friends. You're a great ambassador for the business. I've always said you're one of the best and vocal leaders for the business, particularly after Shannon and I, Will and Macleay departed. So they're very lucky to have you as well, but I appreciate the comments. I think it was... the Bresic Whitney wouldn't be what it is today without the partners we had. You and Andy and Chris. Charles was enormous in the first several years. Macleay was instrumental. Will Phillips, you know, it could have easily been called Bresic Whitney Phillips. Like, that's how important Will was, to me especially. But to the organisation, Will had a huge impact, mate. I don't think I've seen a better developer of people than Will.
I think it's interesting too, because when you consider, like, you talk about that 5 to 10 year period. When I walked into Glebe for the first time, Will was Shannon's assistant.
Yes.
Macleay was Will's assistant. And I remember there was a meeting that I was privy to. I'm not sure why I was, but I think it was me, you and Shannon. And I think Shannon said to you, I think we need to let Will be the face of Surrey Hills now. Yeah. And, like, that might sound ridiculous to people listening to this, but I remember that meeting. And I think you just acknowledged what Shannon said, and you said, okay, well, if that's the right thing to do. And then I think Macleay was also trying to work Paddington in the background, but like, Macleay was like a developing assistant at the time. Yeah. But it's crazy if you fast forward, it's probably 12 years actually. Yeah. How much growth everyone's experienced in the company, and Macleay in particular, and Willie, of course.
You got to remember, I mean, the expectations were always high. Shannon was naturally really good at developing people. So he would sit there and talk to you about how you can do better. And he just naturally did that all the time. So then that filters down. So he would do it, then I would do it, and then you guys as leaders would do it. And all of a sudden, you know, it's like iron sharpens iron. And so, mate, like, we were lucky we all had each other to get better. Were we the absolute, were we miles ahead of all of our competitors? No, I just think we had a good core of very strong agents who were committed to doing better, who respected each other with very little conflict, if you recall. And, mate, we were interested from top down, or top across, whatever you want to call it, to helping each other. And so that really, migrated through the business, and it created a very good foundation for the business. And then when you couple that with the investment that Shannon and I, reinvest in the business in so many different areas, like offices and like external, like, Maya, who we had as a life coach, the investment in there, in leadership, in cultural things that we decided to do, in photography. Like, when you look at that, mate, not many have done it. And look, someone the other day said to me that someone was copying their social media, and I remember just how much other organisations would copy what we were doing. But that was flattery, you know.
I remember when we did that style of photography first, where there was no wide angle lenses, more lifestyle, people, animals.
Correct.
I remember everyone mocked us.
Yeah.
And like, they'd be like, what's that photo of a vase? I remember like actually getting offended so many times from other agents saying like, what are you guys doing? And now it's actually the norm.
Oh, it didn't take long. It took
off, yeah.
And I've got to say, since I started coaching several years ago, I've had people in Adelaide and Queensland say, oh, mate, we love Bresic Whitney. You're the reason, you know, we're calling you because of Bresic Whitney. We copied Bresic Whitney. We copied their photos. We copied their, you know, design. We just loved everything about what you guys did. So, yeah, I mean, also, too, I'm very proud. I live in America now, as you know, and so, like, I'm very proud that when I reflect on it, that what we did as a group was a bit like we pioneered a lot of things, and I don't say that with any ego. And you're talking about some of the most competitive maybe we didn't infiltrate the East as well as we probably could have liked the North, you know, back then. They're growing now, and who knows what the future holds. But in very competitive markets, in the best city in the country, in the most real estate savvy country in the world, city in Australia, we had a huge impact over that 20-year period, and the company still goes on and still does today. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's been good.
What about the industry?
Yeah.
So it's obviously evolved massively.
Yeah.
What do you think we've gained, and what do you think we've lost along the way?
There's a lot more real estate agents I've noticed around the country. I think when I was an agent, there was about 60,000. Last time I checked, there was about 100,000, if those numbers are accurate. So there's definitely more agents across the country. I think it's very fragmented across a lot of the states. Like, there's no real brands that are, you know, heads and shoulders. I know there's a franchise group, Ray White, seem to have good market share. It's gotten more competitive, like 20 to 40-year-olds seem to be, you know, very competitive in terms of, you know, the skills have improved. The commissions have slightly lowered over the years because there's more agents. House prices have gone up, but agents are doing what they can to get listings, so they will offer better rates. So if you look at it, the commissions have been trajectorying downwards over the years. Technology's probably had something to do with that. But I think the fundamentals there, mate, are still, like, if the same fundamentals that are there today that they were 20 years ago to be successful, it's just gone a lot quicker due to technology.
What's an example of that?
Days on market, off-market sales.
But that's the technology. Give me an example of technology.
I'd say with technology, when I was in my first few years, it was a lot slower.
There was no real emails or...
There was no website. But even when website came, you were still having to use print marketing, and things would take time, as with the world. Like, we've just gotten so quick to, you know, we want something, Amazon delivers it. We want an Uber, it's out the front. And real estate, in a way, has kind of also got a lot quicker. People want to buy something, they want to buy it quick, or they want information quicker. If they made the decision to sell, maybe they'll sell quicker too. Maybe. So I think from an agent's point of view, the question is what's changed. I just think, you know, and look, a lot of my agents now, look at you. You send a weekly newsletter on a Friday, a beautiful one, and Saturday, okay? And you've been able to work your work-life balance to spend less hours in the office, which I've helped you with. There's no way you could do that if you didn't send that beautiful newsletter every Friday and every Saturday that you've been doing consistently for 3 years, which I promote to everybody. I say, everyone check out Oddi's Friday email and Saturday email.
Well, like 8 years, actually.
Okay, 8 years you've been doing it for 8 years.
Yeah.
That has provided you a lot of opportunities. How much does it cost you to send? Not a cent.
Hours to prepare.
Hours to prepare, but it does it. But your team does that. But
correct.
Yeah, verse, you ask me what's the difference. 15 years ago, you'd have to go make all those calls. Charles Toomer said to me today, mate, I was thinking of calling my database 50 of my owners every day for the next 8 weeks. And I said to Charles, you know, you could just email or text them now and not have to go through. He goes, but I'm so used to doing that. And I said, yeah, but you don't have to do that. You're here at this level, Charles. An email, your weekly market reports, and execution of your current listings. He's got 20 listings. So if you can execute them, that's more than enough exposure, Charles, for your next month's listings and the New Year's listings. Does that make sense? So the question is, how has technology changed? You can now prospect a lot easier and a lot quicker. You can get deals done a lot quicker. When I was first, we had contracts that were that thick that you'd have to photocopy and then go get it. Now it's just an email. It's an agreement. Send it across, DocuSign, bang. So there's so many little things that have moved the dial forward to get deals done quicker.
Building reports, the def pay for the deposits now.
The whole thing.
There's so many things.
Look at the coaching thing. Like technology, if you look at what I'm doing now, I've had 2 businesses. I've had Bresic Whitney and now I've had Bresic Coaching. Both have been successful. I couldn't do Bresic Coaching successfully without technology. I'm based in Austin, Texas, in a little office underneath my house. That's where I work. Now, without technology, I couldn't do that. So I think for all, I mentioned Uber, I mentioned Amazon, for all industries, technology's had a huge impact.
Agreed. I just want to come back to BW for a second, but in particular Shannon. So Shannon was obviously influential on your life. What did you learn from Shannon? Like, what's one takeaway that you learned from Shannon?
I miss him so much, mate.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
What do you miss about him?
Shannon's like an older brother to me.
And you miss having an older brother? And what in particular? You miss his support, you miss his counsel, you miss...
I think when you've worked with I don't have any brothers, so I think when you've worked with someone so closely for so long, and they've been on that journey from day one through to when I met my ex-wife Sherry, he's had more impact on me than anyone in my life. Was he a pain in the arse at times? Yes. Did we disagree on things? You bet. But, did I question some of his decisions? Yeah, absolutely. But as you get older, mate, you realise, we're all going to die at some point. And, there's more to life than just listing and selling. And so as you get older, you start to be more reflective, especially being a father. You become more reflective on, far out, 20 and 25 and 30. And, mate, we partied together. We did deals together. He taught me humility. He was probably the best question. He was probably the most curious person I knew. So, mate, yeah, I do miss him because, we've got a great relationship. Different because I'm over there and he's here and he's busy doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. We message each other. We invested together. But got emotional there. But he's just a good guy, mate. He's a good guy. Like I said, mate, he's not perfect and I'm far from perfect, but we had a really special thing.
It's nice. That's actually nice. Can we talk about your move to the US? Because there are things, you seem to do things before everybody else. And what...
Other people looking to move to the US.
No, but I don't know. There are decisions that you make and then other people seem to make decisions. In fact, I wanted to ask you before, right? You said that you had a car, like you bought a BMW and stuff like that at 22. Now, I'm making an assumption here. I don't think you would have had role models that you looked up to at that point. Like you would have had an expensive car, then the Euro holidays, and then the restaurants and all that sort of shit in Sydney. Like, how did you even know to do that?
How did I know to acquire those things? Or
I feel like you were the first to do it. When did you say I'm going to have a month off and go to Europe, and then I'm going to go to Mykonos and Ibiza and all these places that you... How did you even know to go, let's say, I don't know, Namos in Mykonos? I don't know, I'm just picking something. How did you even know? Because you weren't following other people's footsteps. In fact, you actually probably created a bit of pathway for everybody else to do that now, and that's just trickled down. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, by the way, but you definitely showed people the way. But I think it's you. Is that fair to say?
It was pretty, like when you're having that sort of success and you're sacrificing that much and you're that young, I think you just sort of realise, you kind of find ways to enjoy that, or reasons that you might reward yourself. We work damn hard, mate. And so and real estate is tough, mate. It's one of the toughest industries. I'm sick of people giving real estate agents a hard time for how much money they make. People have no idea. The top make really great commissions, but no one, it's the outside noise outside the industry, they got no idea. Agents deserve what they make, mate. It's as simple as that. Anyway, I think, mate, you just sort of, I didn't have a lot of role models in terms of how they were doing things, but I was always around successful people. I had people outside work who'd done well in their different fields, and you just group together and say, well, where are we going to go to spend our money? And one holiday it was Las Vegas, and we'll go gambling and nightclubbing, and next time it was, well, let's go to Europe and try that. Apparently Ibiza's pretty good, and there's good parties there, and you're single and you're young and you have a good time. And mate, I don't regret that. In fact, I actually have I love my holidays. I remember them. I remember a lot of them. They've changed obviously a lot over the years, but I encourage all you guys and everyone I work with, take regular breaks because you guys deserve it. You'll work better. You'll work 20% better leading into a break. You'll work 20% better after a break. Take the holiday. And like I said before, we're all going to die at one stage. I don't remember the 2,000 plus sales I had. I couldn't tell you an address. I could tell you one or two addresses that stand out, but I don't remember them. But I remember all my breaks. I remember who I was with, the good breaks, and probably the worst holiday that I had in South Africa with a few of the boys. I remember all of them. And, mate, that's what life's about, experiences.
I like that.
Agree?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we had a great time recently.
We've travelled the last 2 years.
We had a lot of pizza and ice cream. We didn't drink much. We didn't drink at all, actually, which was a good thing.
I actually had a couple.
You did have
I did have
Sorry.
a couple. All right, I'm gonna dive into some of these things, but I just want to talk about your move to the US because it just prompts me about something that we spoke about. So when you first, the decision to leave Bresic Whitney must have been a huge one. I mean, it was a huge one, right? That's 2019.
Yeah.
And then you moved to LA.
Yeah.
But then you got to LA.
Yeah.
I think you bought a house in LA and something in Miami.
Yeah.
But then you decided you didn't like LA. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so the decision to leave was a conscious decision, which was on my subconscious for 3 or 4 years. So, for various reasons, I didn't want to be a real estate agent forever. I felt that was like my role at BW. I felt Sydney had changed a bit. That was just a personal view. Lockout laws were coming in. I found it was getting a bit boring. This was just my view. I still love Sydney. I love coming back. I was nearing 40, so I was like, do I want to do this? Do I want to be a real estate agent at 50 and 60? Because I'm either going to have to make decisions soon, otherwise it's going to be too late, and I'll have to be an agent forever. Obviously started dating Sherry. She was from the US. She moved to Australia. She had couple of years in Sydney, and she enjoyed it, but there was all these things going on. My sister had breast cancer, so she got through that. We had one of our top female agents leave the business, and I found that quite jarring after supporting her for a number of years. So all these things, I'm like, man, do I really need to put up with this? What else is out there? We had heaps of shareholders. The business was growing. It was great. I enjoyed leading. I enjoyed kind of helping people, but I didn't enjoy listing and selling houses anymore. I'd lost the passion for that. And I think when you start helping people and you start mentoring people, to then go back to transactions, which I kind of, if you remember, we decided that I'd go back and do some transactions after. It just didn't feel right. I was going to take a year break. And remember too, I got into real estate at 18 and a half, so I wore a suit every Saturday for 20 odd years. And hadn't experienced anything more than a 3-week, 4-week holiday, which was the best part of it at that point. So I think age, all these things combined. I was actually going to take a year off. I worked with my life coach. I thought I might take a year off, and Sherry and I might go live in the States for a year, just see what it's like. I always loved America. There was something about it. And then I thought, mate, it's all too hard. What happens if I love it over there? Am I really going to want to come back? And I just said to Shannon, mate, I actually think it's better that, I finish up. And I gave him a year. I said, I'd like to do it in 12 months. I'll finish well. I'll do the very best I can. I'll leave on a good note. But, mate, I took the plunge. And I've got to say, I said to Mum and Dad the other day that some of the best decisions, the two of the best decisions in my life was starting Bresic Whitney, but also the timing and leaving. And I don't say that with any, that's just where I was at. A lot of people can't understand that. A lot of people you've spent years building it. Surely you were going to have distributions coming and you were set up for life. Yeah, but it wasn't. I had to be happy about what I was doing. And, if I look at what I've created the last several years, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And I'm really happy with that decision. So starting it was a bloody good decision. Leaving when I did was a bloody good decision.
But it took courage.
Absolutely, because everyone I spoke to said, "Are you sure? Don't do it. You're mad. Like, you're going to lose momentum. You've spent all this time building it." But, like, in my head, I was like, imagine living in Hollywood, in West Hollywood, like in LA, palm trees in a nice house and figuring out what I do next. Don't forget, I'd had a decent net worth at that stage, more than
How much?
Oh, it was top 1% of the industry. But enough, because I never thought about it. So it was enough to, I could flip houses, I could do a sales job. I wouldn't have had to work for a year or two.
So you went to LA not knowing what you were going to do.
Not really.
That's
knowing
right.
Yeah,
you maybe had a couple of ideas. And then tell me about the Austin, Texas move.
So we lived in LA during COVID. And I've got to say, for those, everyone who goes to LA says they like it for a few days and they stay in a nice hotel and it's sunny and it's beautiful. But I'd lived there for 18 months, 2 years, and I found that the environment wasn't what I was looking for. There weren't many parks, the crime and, the homelessness was an issue. There was a lot of traffic. I was a bit underwhelmed living there. And it just so happened that Sherry's family, part of her family, lived in Austin, Texas. So we would often go over there to spend time there. And, mate, if you've ever, but you haven't been, I've invited you a few times, I'm sure you'll get there. But, it's a great place. A lot of founders are there, a lot of podcasters are there, a lot of people in the health and wellness industry are there. And I just felt comfortable there from the start. She was pregnant at that stage, and that was the type of environment that I wanted to raise the family. And so it was an easy move. A lot of people from California were actually moving to Austin, Texas at that time, just after COVID. So it was a pretty easy decision. Also, too, the cost of living in Austin's far better than California. And also you pay no state tax. So there was a multitude of reasons, why I wanted to live there. It was central. We had family there. And, mate, it's a beautiful place. And, mate, I'd say to anyone, if they're not happy with their environment, if they're not happy in a relationship, if they're not happy where they live or what city they live in, if they're not happy for the company they work for, make the change. That's my best advice. And it's a lot of people will stick in a bad relationship. And when I say about a relationship that they don't feel like they're fully in. So a lot of people will just stick in that because it's easier. A lot of people will stay in the city or the state they live in because it's easier. Or a lot of people will sit and stay in the same company even though they know they shouldn't be there. And I have to say, 47 years, my best advice would say, make that change, trust your heart, and it's worked for me so far.
Do you say that as a coach, or did you have that mentality before you made the move to the States?
I think Mum and Dad always said, they were always very supportive of us of doing what we want. We're a bit even though we were sort of blue collar middle class, they spoilt us. And so, they never put pressure on us to do anything we don't want to do from a young age. We got to do whatever we want to do, basically. So I think when you take that into your professional life and your relationships, personally, I've never really stayed in anything that didn't feel right.
Why do you think people stay in situations that don't feel right?
Because it's a lot easier to stay in something you're familiar with, and that's humans. So it may seem it's a lot easier, but if you think about it, why does someone stay with the same accountant even though they know that accountant is probably not the best accountant for them? They're not working for them. Why would someone stay in an organisation where they know that they're not really well looked after and cared for and mentored and given opportunities? Because it's actually a lot easier to stay there than the thought of, I'm going to actually leave. And so I think, everyone's different, but I have to say I try to give people courage to make that move, because usually it's the hard decisions that they're the hardest ones for people to overcome. And if you can make that decision, there's greener pastures on the other side, but it's making that decision which is the hard thing.
How do you support people through that?
Well, I do an exercise firstly. So I do an exercise with them, and it's a simple exercise. I say, write on the right side the reasons for staying where you are, and write on the left side the reasons for going where you think you may go, and sit with it. So, and I'll do, like, for example, when I was thinking leave Bresic, Whitney and Sydney or stay, I did that exercise. When I thought LA or Austin, I did exactly the same thing. So I put a line down the page and I did 4 quarters. Los Angeles, reasons for staying, reasons for going. Austin, Texas, reasons for staying, reasons for going. And I sat with that. And like in the case of leaving Bresic, Whitney, I literally had this 4-quartet page. I haven't told many people this. And I looked at it, and the number one reason for going was I'm not happy. So there was a lot of reasons to stay. Money, family, familiarity, great brand, profile, status, power, all that stuff. But I kept looking at the number one thing on the top of the reason as to why I wanted to leave, and that was I was not happy. And no matter all these other things, I said I'm going to make this decision leave because I keep seeing that and I'm just not happy in here. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Why weren't you happy?
For the same reasons I said. I think subconsciously there was a lot of things that were happening over a few years where I just didn't feel, I'd lost the passion for selling. I was questioning what I wanted to do at 50. I thought, am I just going to be a real estate agent forever?
When you said you weren't happy, were you able to define what happiness was for you at that point?
I think it was more loss of passion. And I knew that I was a bit in trouble because I started to count my commissions for the first time. And I said earlier that in the early years, the first 10 years, for example, real estate was effortless. Mate, I could do 10, 12 sales. I could work, I could stay back late at night. I could go show a buyer property at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night and loved it. But I knew towards the end of my Bresic Whitney years that when I started counting my commissions, that wasn't a good thing. Because now I was really treating it like a job, not a passion. And so when you say, Ivan, when you say you weren't happy, I'd say that I'd recognised within myself that it was becoming more of a job and not the passion that I was used to it. I like it. I said to Shannon, Shannon said to me, mate, are you still enjoying being an agent? This was about 6 months before I made the decision. And I said to Whit, I'm not. I said, I feel like a basketballer who has reached really high highs and played for the All-Stars and done all that and got all these accolades, but I feel like my basketball career is coming to an end. And I said that to Whit on the phone, and he goes, yep, I understand, mate, stay positive. You might feel differently about that in 6 to 12 months. But as time went on, that just got further and further away.
Do you think if you were coaching if we went back to that moment and you had yourself as a coach, this version of you, do you think you could have got through that period, or do you think it was done?
No, I think I would hope that if I was coaching me, that I would still uncover that I'd lost the passion and that there is other things out there for you that you'll feel really excited about. And you got to remember, do you like being a real estate agent?
Sometimes.
Did you like it more 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just more, I had more patience. But yeah, I mean, there are things that I love about being an agent, and there's some things that frustrate the hell out of me.
Yeah. And
I just, it can become, I think, quite repetitive.
Yep.
So I had this conversation with Andy the other day. Like, one of our competitors has been given the same spiel for 10 years.
Yeah.
You pick us because of this. And I said to Andy, I don't know how you could go into a house and give that same spiel again for 10 years straight, 3, 4, 10 times a week. And just at some point, surely it becomes taxing on your soul. So I don't know, you either reinvent yourself or you reinvent your pitch or whatever it is, but it's the same thing because I still hear it all the time.
Yeah.
So for me, there are things that really frustrate me, but there are things that I love. I still love being competitive. I still I have a strong skill set. I still like delivering, and when the clients say that was amazing, or sometimes I feel like my skill set, I feel like I can deliver a result. Maybe the client would even appreciate how crafty I've put together a deal, because I've just done 1,500 of them and I can see what's coming like 10 steps ahead most of the time. So you're just like doing this puzzle. But I don't know, there are some conversations that are tiring.
Very difficult. And I've encouraged you to keep doing what you're doing because you're very good at what you do. But I've also encouraged you to reimagine how you be a high-level agent to keep you energised. If you recall these conversations, how can you stay energised over the next 10 years, still be elite, still be a high performer, but enjoy it more? And so, you know, if you flip, if we go back to and you said, well, Ivan, could you have, you know, maybe, but you see, I had a lot of responsibility. My name was on the door, Bresic, Whitney. So I had landlords ringing me on Sundays. I had, if one of our agents, you know, had a poor experience with a client, they would just pick up my phone and ring 0418258252, which was my line, and I had to take that call or call them back. And so, and that's fine, you know, we could have changed things maybe and put a layer of, you know, support, or, you know, move that responsibility to somebody else. But
it's a lot.
It's a lot, mate. It was a lot. And, you know, if I go back to when I got in the industry, if you said to me, Ivan, at 40, you would have created this brand, had a really good time doing it, and you would have this much net worth, and then you can still go and do whatever you want, I'd probably take that, which I did. So I don't think it was, you know, a huge decision for me not to do that.
The move to the US,
Yep.
What did you learn about yourself?
Oh, so much, mate, because you realise there's a whole other world out there outside real estate. There's a whole, like, we just know real estate and the circles we're in, and we just think there's a real estate bubble. But you realise there's so much more to the world.
Was there a moment where you realised that, I don't know, maybe you were chasing the wrong things, or was there that sort of moment? Is that what you're referring to?
When I got out of the industry, I went, actually, shit, there's a lot of time in the week. Whereas for 22 years, you're just on from the minute you wake up until you go to sleep, and then you have your holidays and you have that routine. So I think a lot of things, like I learnt to, you know, meet with people from all different industries. Real estate teaches you a lot. It's a great industry. It teaches you, you know, so many other skills other than listing and selling a house, like how to read a room, how to negotiate, you know, property stuff, how to have good conversations with people, how to invest. So I think there was a lot of skills that you learned that are outside prospecting, listing and selling, leadership things. But I think for me, mate, I was excited. Like, I said to myself, if I can do something else and earn a couple $100,000 a year, mate, I'm fine with that. It wasn't a money decision. If it was a money decision, I would have stayed where I am. It just so happens that Bresic Coaching's gotten better and better and better and better. And, you know, it's become it's become more lucrative than I thought. But, mate, I wasn't motivated by money at that stage of my life. I wanted my health, age. Because my sister went through breast cancer, don't forget, and I was like, okay, I wanted to focus on health now. I wanted to be more present. I knew I was going to start a family, and you know, Sherry got pregnant with Kobe, so it was just a different. And I'm really glad I did that, because like now I can drive him to school. My dad never drove me to school, so I drive him to school. You know, I pick him up from school. You know, I've got time for him, mate. If I was at Bresic Whitney and I was a co-founder and still there, mate, I wouldn't have that situation now. So I'm very grateful for that, mate.
When you refer to your health, because that's a big thing for you now, when did you start to take that seriously? And I mean seriously, like the version of you now.
I think when I was in LA, I felt like, I was like, why am I not getting the gains in the gym? Because there were some really fit people there, just like Sydney. So I was training, but I was like looking around and all these guys were in really good shape. And I'm like, why have I never been able to be in that type of shape? And I think I was like 40 at the time. So I was like, I want to do something about that. Like, I have to change something. So the first thing to go was at the end of 2021 when Sherry was pregnant, I said to a few of the guys I was coaching that I'm going to take all of 22 off. I'm not going to drink in 2022. And so I had my last drink on December 18, 2021. I wasn't a big drinker, but I was like, I'm just going to give this thing a go of no alcohol. And so I remember having my last glass of wine, December 18, 2021. I got COVID, and, that was it. And then the new year came around, I said, I'm going to go 12 months no drinking. Mate, for those listeners who don't drink or who've taken, you've taken periods off of not drinking, what's the impact?
Yeah. My relationship with alcohol is like as healthy as it can be. I can go for weeks without a drink without realizing that I haven't had a drink.
Yeah.
But what I will share with you is I've just got back from Palm Beach with the family.
Yeah.
And I did drink. I had 1 or 2 drinks almost every day.
Yeah.
And I've felt my energy shift. There is no question about it.
Mm.
And then if you have a drink before, this is what I learned about myself.
Yeah.
If I have a drink at dinner,
Yeah.
then I'm probably less likely to take my 25 supplements that I take before bed every night.
Yep.
Less likely to, I don't know, do my sleep checklist.
Yeah.
I know it sounds fanatical, but I am fanatical about sleep.
Yeah.
So they're the things. So then there's a ripple effect to the following day.
Yep.
So that's what I've learned. So yeah, it doesn't help.
So that's great too, and well done, because you're in great shape. I think it was when I decided not to drink, I started to see the benefits in 30, 60 days. I had more energy, mate, I was sleeping better, and now I could train harder. Sherry was pregnant, so then I started going to the grocery store because I've got more time. And mate, I never went to the grocery store at Bresic, Whitney, not once in my life. So now I'm starting to go to Whole Foods in America and do the grocery shopping, and coming home, now I'm cooking the meals. Then I'm on social media and you're getting fed all these things of what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating. And so, I was really interested in that. Now I'm moving more because I've got more time in the day. So I'm doing more walks and I'm training harder. And so it all just kind of compounded. And now I'm starting to see more results and I'm feeling better. I was also trying to set an example as a coach that I'm not just someone who started a great business, but that I'm really interested in performance. So how could I, as a serious coach, because I take what I do very serious, as you know, how could I do that and have a gut? How could I say that being in good shape wouldn't affect your performance in a positive way? It does.
Are you saying that success is a lifestyle? Is that...
I think it's absolutely just as important as attitude and everything else, and skill. And that's why it's one of my pillars. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen so many key agents that I work with who have, taken 3 months or 6 months off booze or a year, and I've seen that connection between their results improve. They've become better leaders, better sleeping, and they've thanked me for that. They've become leaner. And so, look, I know that I'm probably more serious about that than many others, but there was a number of reasons. You asked me, when did I start taking my health serious? Around that time. I started cooking my own food, buying my own groceries, moving more, stopped alcohol, and that just moved the dial. And I just started to get fitter, I had more energy. So, I felt better. It's like meditation. So, if something is making you feel better, you do it more. And then it becomes an addiction, and a good addiction, because I love feeling good. And so now I'm feeling better, I'm looking better, I'm performing better. Mate, why would you stop? Doesn't make sense. And mate, I've been to all those party places you've mentioned the last few years and I haven't drunk a drop of alcohol. That's my decision. So I think it's all those things, Age. And, to everyone listening, I'd say that, when I meet people and they want to perform better, they come to me, they want to perform better, we can help them with their skills. We can help them with their leadership, but I should definitely help them with their lifestyle, And I'm really happy that a lot of the younger ones these days are actually drinking less. I think American alcohol consumption is down more than it's ever been from the statistics. Great. There's a lot of alternatives. You don't need alcohol to have a good time. You can have a good time without it. You perform better.
I think, on the topic of, let's label it energy, which is... I think there's layers to health, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's obviously longevity in life and something that we need to consider in our 40s at the moment. I think there's energy and mood, or this can help as well. But I think what I've learned is I don't think anything feels better than good health. I don't think anything feels better than good energy. And there's just something about being able to like feel that way, enjoy summer.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just you got more capacity to do things in a day. You can handle things differently. And it's just but we could give the same advice to my mum, who's in her like early to mid 60s. It's the same thing. Health is health. Sleep is sleep. Like it has a snowball positive effect in so many areas. That's what I've learned as I've leaned into that over the last. Definitely leaned into it like in a much more serious, fanatical way in the last few years.
I'd agree. Technology, like you can now rate for years we've been able to rate our sleep, and anyone who drinks, you have a horrible sleep. No one ever regrets not drinking the next day. That's something that they say. I've heard it. I say it. No one's ever regretted not drinking the next day. So real estate's an energy game. I remember one of my key agents partied one weekend 2 years ago. Alcohol led to recreational drugs, and he said I had a really big weekend. And he ended up losing a few listings that week, key listings. And I said, mate, it wasn't just the $3,000 you spent at Mimi's and on the recreational drugs. I said that weekend cost you $150,000 in lost comms because he lost 2 listings that were verbally told that he was going to get, and his energy was down that week. He didn't ring them, whatever. They listed with someone else. So it wasn't the $3,000 that it cost him. It cost him $150,000 in lost comms. That's what it cost him. When I had that conversation with him, that particular agent decided not to do recreational drugs in Sydney, and his drinking has limited to very little through a 12-month period.
It's more than that too. It's the 3 or 4 days of, coming down or whatever, all that sort of shit. How do you protect your energy today, as opposed to maybe how you would have protected it 10 years ago? What's the difference?
I'm really lucky. Like a lot of people say, you must be at a disadvantage for your business. Because I said, have you got American clients? I said, no, they're all Australian and New Zealand. So I'm kind of really lucky because, where I live, I can choose who I spend my time with and how I spend my time. I find when I come to Sydney, actually, my phone's blowing up and people want to meet, and it's, I go for a walk and I know people, or I'm here, so I should meet people or see people. But when I go there, then I've escaped from it all. And I love that at this stage of my life because I love peace and quiet. So, I think it's gym, it's meditation. It's like, I think time for time for yourself is really important, just for some peacefulness, especially for guys like us. But if I'm not in a situation that, if I don't feel like I'm getting the right energy from something, then I'm pretty conscious of it, and I'll simply just remove myself from that situation just to protect that. But where I live, I'm very fortunate that where I live now, I'm away from all that, and I can really choose carefully where I spend my energy and who with.
You read a lot too?
I read a lot. I spent a lot of time studying Stoicism, just before I left, because I was at a crossroads in my life, and I found Stoicism, which the main premise of Stoicism is it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond. And, the obstacle is the way, was Ryan Holiday's book. And, I really warmed to that philosophy for about 2 or 3 years, and I read a lot of Stoicism. In fact, I saw Ryan Holiday in Austin 2 weeks ago, and it was a great reminder of Stoicism. I read a lot of non-fiction. And, I'm reading a lot of books on coaching now and leadership, because that's where I feel my clients need me most now, is in leadership. And I have got the time. I just find it's really calming, because if I don't read, then I end up scrolling, which we all do. And we know what that's like. It's depressing, and it's, you get down that scrolling rabbit hole, and I'm really conscious of that. But I try to read 10 to 20 pages a day, whether it's in the sauna or in the sun in Austin. We've got really good weather there, and I find that's really good for my soul, mate. And I would recommend it to anyone.
A healthy lifestyle.
Thanks, man.
Okay. A bunch of questions about agents now.
Yeah.
So you're mentoring some of the best agents in the country. So what have you noticed that all the top performers have in common?
I think they're very resilient. They've done the time in the earlier years. They're constantly focused on excellence and improving. They're typically coachable, I find. They have written goals mostly. They try to surround themselves with the right people, for sure. They doubt themselves as well, which is interesting, the very best, which just shows you, like, I'm always amazed how the elite need coaching just as much as anybody, if not more, because the thing that got them there was their curiosity and their doubt. And so they still get there and they still feel, well, what am I missing or what am I not doing? So, yeah, I just think also, like, I look at some of them, like 6 or 7 of them I actually emailed their parents recently, including yours.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Yeah. And I did that because I think a lot had to do with their childhood and their upbringing. And so I handpicked about 7 or 8 of my top agents, and I sent their parents an email just saying, just want to let you know, as a father, you've done really well with your child, because, you know, they've excelled in this industry, which is a tough industry. And that definitely has a connection to how they were brought up. And so well done to you as the parents. And so, you know, they've all had a certain story about their why. You know, you asked me before what kept me motivated. There's something that's kept the elite to keep going, to improve, to be competitive, to concentrate on the client, to build. And usually it's not, like I said earlier, it's not about money. A lot of these guys, you included, like, you just get into it, you get really good at it, and their skills were, you know, when you look at it, their ceiling's just higher than most of the industry. So, you know, this is why I've encouraged you to keep doing what you're doing, mate, because you're really good at what you do. So why would you stop? You know, it's great that you do other things and you've got passions like photography and the podcast, but why would Adrian stop being an agent when you're naturally very good at this? And I would say that to the other boys as well. So yeah, they're all got the same fundamentals, mate. You're all hungry. You're all good at what you do. You all can read a room. I would trust my home to sell with all those top guys in a heartbeat, because they understand execution.
What about the flip side? What about the people that aren't performing? Because you've probably coached some of those as well. Like, what do those people have in common?
I wouldn't say they're not performing, because that's probably being critical of them. I'd say, what about the people who aren't working to their potential?
Yeah, sorry. That's a nice way.
That's probably a better way. Mate, I find they probably, you know, like, they might not be in the right environment. It is a mindset game, so this has to be right. So whether you're an Alex Phillips or a McClay, or whether you're in the first 6 or 12 months, you know, what we become what we tell ourselves. Like, the brain is such a powerful thing. The mind is so wherever we see ourselves or whatever we're telling ourselves, it becomes our reality.
Yeah. What do you mean? Give me an example. What could you say to yourself?
Like, I'll give you an example. When you were growing up as an agent, what were you saying? Were you saying to yourself, I can do this and I'm going to beat those guys?
I never doubted myself.
There you go. That's a good... I knew you were going to say that. And any elite agent would say that. So there was Adrian Oddi selling 2 properties a month, but he was saying to himself, I want to be one of the best in this industry. Or I
don't know why I said that, though, but I said that from day one.
All the elite agents have said that to themselves. And I used to say that to myself when I was selling 2 properties a month. So mindset's a really big thing. So going back to the question, the people who aren't working to their potential, how are they going off track? It's really hard for a lot of standalone agents out there, mate. You know, they don't have the support that a lot of the elite agents have. They don't have the confidence. They don't have the runs on the board. They have no, you know, they actually need a listing and a sale because the commissions are a little bit dry. So it's really hard for them, mate.
Discipline?
So, discipline, mindset, you know, what they're, you know, well, I mean, discipline's a good one, but, like, you know, why are they not working to their potential? Like, what's stopping them? You know, I'm really curious about. And sometimes it's a personal thing. They're unmotivated. There's stuff going on outside their work. They've had some losses and it's been kicked in the guts a little bit, and that's hard to rebound from. Like, when you guys had losses in your earlier years, it knocked you around, but absolutely you showed up the next day ready to go again. So other people don't have that type of resilience, you know. So
what about your resilience? It's probably the best I've ever seen.
Well, mate, I looked at my dad who got 80% of his body burnt, you know, and when you go through that, and many people have been through worse, although that is one of the worst things. Love my dad. But I think when you have something like that happen early in your life, like whenever I went home after a shit day at work as a leasing agent or working with Shannon or lost listings, and you'd see Dad, who was, didn't look good, you go, well, it's not that bad.
Was that like a constant reminder for you?
Constant reminder, mate. Yeah, really tough.
Do you think that's where because your resilience is outstanding?
I don't know.
You don't seem to be phased.
Oh,
Does rejection phase you?
No, because I think the industry taught us that if you want anything, you're going to have to get a lot of no's to get a yes. So the industry taught us that, whether we liked it or not. It was tough earlier on because you take it personally. Do you remember the early years when you lost a listing? Like, you literally take it personally. And like agents still do, but I think the more you lose and the more you win, you realise it's just part of the game and you move on. And if you look at people like McLean and Alex now, they lose a listing, it's water off a duck's back and they're on to the next one. So, and they're the best in the industry. So, I think the ones that are struggling, and for any of the listeners who are struggling at the moment, usually it's only a few little things that they need to tweak. It could be a conversation with a mentor. It could be just like write down your top 5 goals between now and Christmas. It could be just commit to serving 20 buyers really well between now and the end of the year. It could be you've got a database of 400 owners, let's just get that to 650. If they can just have some little wins, where they just there was an agent recently who goes, I haven't had a sale for 2 months. And as soon as she had one sale, her whole demeanour changed. She goes, I just got one. And now she turned from negative and defensive into positive and optimistic. And see, the beauty of you and the other high performers is you guys are always doing deals. It's a lot easier to be optimistic when you're doing deals. But for those ones that you said, what about the ones that aren't working to their potential? Mate, it can be hard for them. They haven't done a deal for a month or two. They've been on the wrong end of listing opportunities. They've had deals fall over. They might be in the wrong environment. They've had a breakup or a divorce, or they've in a tough financial situation. But mate, I believe that all agents can do better. I know they can. In fact, they just have to apply themselves and change their mindset and just tweak a little few things, and they can go from 20 sales to 30. And 20 sales to 30, that's a 50% increase. That's huge. But they might not think that that's good because Adrian Oddi does 100 and Alex Phillips does 200 and McLeod Longhurst does 150. But 20 to 30 is a huge increase.
It is hard.
Very hard.
I have conversations with agents all the time to stay motivated when there is a gap between sales. I mean, I have that now too because I'm not, sort of have that. No, I don't have what I used to have, if that makes sense. And sometimes you lose a bit of confidence or you lose a bit of motivation, and it can be hard.
It can be. Yeah, so you can get off track. And I'll say this, even for the agents that are not working to their potential, if they do 15 or 20 deals a year in most markets in Australia, what's their GCI?
$1 million? I'm not sure.
500K at least.
Something, yeah.
So let's be realistic here. There is a lot of jobs out there, the majority of jobs out there that you can't earn 500 GCI before tax and paying a company. So it's not 500 in your hand, but 500 might be 300. Okay, so even the agents who are listening or out there that are struggling with their performance, if they just do 15 deals a year, that's probably $500,000, or 20 deals a year. That's still $500,000 GCI. That's probably 300 in your hand. That's still a much better industry than.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's wild. All right, a couple more questions, Ive. When you're coaching, what do you find yourself saying over and over again? What's the message that most people need to hear?
Stay with it. Stay positive. Keep doing the work. The formula works. Have faith in it. Keep serving people. Don't be listing focused. Build your database. Improve yourself. Never stop learning. Surround yourself with good people, and you've got this.
What about the comparison game?
Comes up from everybody.
And?
In that situation, everyone compares. I put on my social media recently that everyone compares, and I believe that. At different times, some people this much, some people that much. But it's you versus you. Mate, it's like everyone's running their own race. So as a coach, I'm just saying, don't worry about, I can see where you've got off. I can see that you're thinking about your competitor. I can see that you're thinking about some of these elite agents and what the numbers they're doing, but that doesn't, So I guess what I try to do, mate, is I just try to bring them back to where they're at and say, where were you 12 months ago? And let's just focus on that. And if you run the 100 metres in 18 seconds, let's try to do it in 17 seconds. And that's all that matters. But like it happens. We can't say to people, you can't say to Jack or Jasmine who are in your team, don't compare yourself to anyone. They're going to. But one of the best things you can do as a leader is say, Jack, mate, I'm not asking you to be Adrian Oddi. I'm asking you to be a better version of yourself, Jack. Let's focus on that. Where are you at? Show me your pipeline. Show me who you're working with. Let's have a look at your listings and how can you get them close to a sale? When's your next holiday? Are you saving money for the future? What else is important to you, Jack? How's your health? That is all that matters for Jack Parry. Does that make sense?
That's where goals and accountability comes into.
Absolutely, yeah.
Some quick fire questions. Outside of your real estate hat, what 3 qualities make a good friend?
Loyalty, trust, and I don't think many people really want others to do well in life, except like I read something that only your father wants you to do better than them.
I read that too, yeah.
You read that? Yeah,
recently.
And look, I reckon that's but when I saw that, I was like, no, I actually reckon I've probably got 2 or 3 mates who actually do want me to do well, and they're my inner circle. And I've got to say, I disagree with that. Like, I would love Adrian Oddi or Macleay Longhurst to do better than me in life. And in fact, Macleay financially has done better than me in life. I love that. So it's probably for me, it's like, friends who genuinely want you to do well. Like, I really want the best for you. And I want that for a lot of the guys I work with, but we're talking friends. I actually want the best for them, so that makes a good friend. So I would want that in return, and that's a hard thing, but it's something I've become very comfortable with as I've gotten older and as I do what I do. So I think those things, support, and it's like, who would you call when things go to shit? Because it's all going to go to shit at some point. Like, who were the top 5 people that you would call if things unravelled, or there was a death in the family? You got sick a few years ago, and you could see who were those people that were there for you. That's friendship, in my opinion.
Agreed. What 3 qualities make a good person?
Character, for sure. Character. I think in life, I know, and I've read the book on it, there's givers, there's matchers, and there's takers. So takers will just take from you. Matchers is, you buy me coffee, I'll have to buy you a coffee. And then there's givers, here's a coffee, I don't expect anything in return. And it's not just a financial thing, but I'd say givers, because it can be time, it can be wisdom, it can be support, so I'd say, what 3 things make a good person? Character. Like, I met a lot of people in LA that didn't have good character, and that's why I wanted to leave. Givers are a good one, and I think people with good values, like family values, trust, respect, people who are interested and passionate about something. Like, I hate people saying waste their time. Like, I'm cool with a cleaner if they love what they do. I met a guy yesterday who owns a cafe. He serves coffees in Mossman, and I got a coffee from him at 6. I was his first customer at 6 o'clock in the morning. He looked like a bikie. He had tattoos all over him, big guy. And I ended up getting in a conversation with him, mate, and the guy he loved it. He goes, mate, you wouldn't do what I do unless you loved it. He goes, I've got 3 coffee shops and I love it. And so, like, I like seeing people do things and have an interest in something, whether they're a cleaner. I just saw one in a lift. Mate, if they love it and they're interested in it, I love that.
About you, what 2 qualities have you worked on the most in the last few years?
Patience and competing less with people. So when I was an agent, it was all about competition. And so I'm naturally a competitive person, just like a lot of the elite agents. But I've realised through some work I've done with my coaches, my personal coaches, that, I don't want to compete with others. it's really important with what I do. I don't want to compete with others. So I've had to really pull that out of me, that competitiveness, if that makes sense. Doesn't mean I don't have drive, but me trying to compete with this person or that person, I've tried to.
Okay, last question.
Yeah, man.
If Kobe was listening to this, what, and you could instill something in him or a couple of things, what would your message to him be?
That's an easy one, because I think about that all the time, because I've only got one son. I hope I have more, but I've got one. I don't want him to be spoiled, because if you look at our industry, anyone who was spoiled hasn't actually made it. We've all had to go out and get it. And so I think I'd love him to have good character and understand that, there's so many opportunities in life, but you've got to go and get it. And so, I would love him. I don't want him to be spoiled. I can spoil him. I've got millions of dollars, but I don't want that for him. And that's not where I came from either. And that's not where a lot of the elite agents came from. Because if they were, they probably wouldn't have had that hunger. So I'd love him to be able to, find something he's interested in, have good character, and understand that, Daddy's got it, but I want to do this. That would be awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
All right, that's it. Can I just thank you, Ive, for who you are, your friendship, what you've been to the whole industry. It's hard. It's hard to actually acknowledge you in the way that I really want to acknowledge you, because you've been there for me for over 10 years. You exude all those qualities of a good friend. You supported me, incredibly well during my illness as well. I still remember that. You've supported me through my separation, so you've been there, and then you've supported me with this reinvention of myself. But that's just me. I'm just one of hundreds of people that you've influenced. So thank you for everything that you do. And I also think that you represent for so many of us what the exit out of real estate could look like, because I believe that you've taken all the best attributes of real estate, which is good health, friendships, money. You are the way that everyone should exit the industry. And again, that's something that you're pioneering right now.
Thanks,
again, leading by example for everyone. So thank you.
Well, mate, I was always ready to do this with you. I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up. And I'm very honoured to have such a good friend like you. And I think you're doing great work, so keep that up until death do us part, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you.